Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. I'm just going to say good evening because it's evening time over here once again. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome to the live stream. First time here. Make sure y'all hit that subscribe button. Hit the like button. Don't forget about the notification bell so you know when I post the next video. Today, we're going to have a little discussion. We're going to have a couple discussions. I think the one we're going to cover is the one that I posted about was DDR6. Yes, sir. It's about DDR6. And I got everything all set to go. And I bet you the machine's on his way home like usual. So we're going to see what cooks there. But in the meantime, we are going to go over to the action screen. How to get it set up. And I know it's really bright. It's the screen. So let's go to the action screen and see what we got cooking. Well, let's see. The news they're talking about here today. DDR6 set for 2027. Mass adoption as Mass adoption as memory giants reportedly finalized the prototype designs. I figured this would be a good discussion for everybody because this is something you guys need to know what's coming. And there's a lot more that I bet you is going to be coming in the future in 2027. But in 2025, it looks like late 2025, maybe around November or December, somewhere in there, things might get cooking even more. It says, with the JEDEC unveiling the LPDDR6 standard on July 9th, memory giants are racing to meet soaring demand from mobile and AI devices. Notably, according to industry sources cited by Commercial Times, DDR6, excuse me. Oh, and don't forget your drinking snacks, by the way, guys. I got mine. DDR6 is expected to enter large-scale adoption by 2027. Leading DRAM makers, including Samsung, Micron, and SK Hynix, to have already kicked off DDR6 development, focusing on chip design, controller validation, and packaging module integration. As noted by Commercial Times, the three major DRAM makers have completed DDR6 prototype chips, designs, and are now working with memory controllers and platform players like Intel and AMD on interface testing. So that sounds like good news to me. In terms of product pipeline, the report suggests that the next-gen CPUs are expected to start supporting DDR6 from 2026, targeting AI servers, HPC systems, and high-end laptops. Now, I figured that was going to be a good thing that you guys want to hear about, is because some of you guys got laptops that you do use. And hello there, MTBK and Cyborg. Good to see you, by the way. It's good news for the high-end laptops. For people that got high-end laptops, it's going to be a good thing. But the DDR6 standards take shape. Commercial Time points out that the JEDEC, Solid State Technology Association, has completed the DDR6 draft standard in late 2024, while the LPDDR6 draft was released in Q2 of 2025. Platform testing and validation are expected to begin in 2026 under their report notes. So, though the standards are still taking shape, the industry sources cited Commercial Times note that DDR6 delivers major advancements in both performance and architecture. We all know AMD and Intel is not going to have a wasted moment on this. For the simple fact, you're going to have to look at the pros and cons to this. Okay, 2027 could be the year AMD and Intel launch an, I bet you, a processor from hell. We know that AM7's coming. We know the 300 series on Intel's coming. We know a lot of things are going to be coming between 2026 and 2027, but I think they're going to keep the best for last. So it might take a year, but they also, too, they might pop out with PCIe 6.0 to support the DDR6 era. So, structurally, DDR6 is set to shift a multi-channel design. Here we go with the controllers. They're going to use a multi-controller, so this is telling me that it's going to be on AM7. They're not thinking about on AM6. This is an AM7 feature. Featuring 4 times 24-bit subchannels versus DDR5 with 2 times 32-bit setup. Commercial Time reports this would allow for better parallel processing, data flow, and bandwidth utilization through it. Also imposes higher demands on the module's I/O design and signal integrity that the report adds. Meanwhile, CAM2, compression attached memory module 2, is now being standardized by JEDEC. It is emerging as a key feature for the DDR6 era. These are things we need to really know. Hello there, DV. Good to see you. Good to see you. And hello there, Mr. Machine. And we got, Mr. Med and Mr. Vamp. Good to see you guys.
Yo, what's up?
Nothing. I'm just reading off a report because I'm doing this live. This report that came out about the DDR6.
Yeah.
I thought it was pretty interesting that they're saying they're going to a 2-controller kind of thing, and this kind of bringing it to AM7. I would think that they're going to do this, but also too,
they're AM6 is what I would think for DDR6, since it's typically every number increases for the new DDR standard.
Yeah, that's true, but from what they're saying that, it could be in 2027, but we all know that AM6 might come out in 2026, and they're going to stick it to the DDR5.
I don't think AM6 is coming out next year because Zen 6 first has to come out, and that's going to be on AM5.
Yeah. I know it's a very.
And then I think AM6 would probably be a year or so later after Zen 6 launches, at least, which would be 2027 at the earliest.
Well, they're saying 2027, but they're talking about DDR6 in 2027. But they're also saying, too, that they're going to do a CAM2, the compression attached memory module.
I don't think that will be a normal standard for any motherboard. That will be like a proprietary type of motherboard in particular.
Yeah, I
not
can.
going to be a comp.
Yeah, I can see that they're going to give you, but they're going to give you two options. I can see that. If
No
they're gonna
laptop.
if they're gonna do anything, it's basically they're gonna give you the Cam 2 option, or they're gonna give you the regular standard stick option. You know, whatever you choose on your motherboard, they're gonna give you an option. If they do an option, that would be great. I would think it would be great because then everybody can look at it as a positive to where they have a choice when it comes to the RAM, depending on the price.
Those are going to be quite expensive, those
Yeah.
Cam 2 modules.
Yeah, that's
They already have Cam 2 modules for some laptops, like one or two.
right. Even
In my opinion, the only way Cam 2 modules would make sense is in like a mini PC like Strix Halo, for example. It would make sense for Cam 2 modules and something like that. But like in a desktop PC, I just don't think most people want to deal with those modules.
yeah, because you got to put them in a certain way, and you got to make sure the
You have
pins.
to buy them specifically for your motherboard, and they're going to cost more money than standard, DDR6 at that time.
In the beginning, they're not going to let you stack it anyway. Think about it. If you want more RAM, how are you going to get more RAM with the Cam 2? They're going to have to stack it one on top of the other, and then the motherboard, you got to worry about the trace, the power support through the motherboard, if it's going to support it or not. It's a very tricky situation with this. Not unless you guys disagree with that.
I agree with that. I would not want to have to buy a specific motherboard just to get Cam 2. I'd rather just get a standard motherboard with RAM slots like traditionally we've had for years.
Yeah, I agree with you about that because you have options there.
They just showed something like that during CES, like one of the motherboard vendors.
Yeah, I
They
seen
did show it off.
for
But
last
like
year.
we said before, that's very
But
niche.
that was
for a
more or
product.
less as a concept.
They have it for the that backwards connector as well for certain 5090s as well.
Yes.
But if they do come out with DDR6 and LPDDR6 for the laptops to increase, functionality and gives it a better, laptops they'll have a little bit more of a pickup, when you go to the next top RAM. So, but many laptop manufacturers anyway, they're going to try to stick around the LPDDR5 because they're not going to make any money if they start
It really
putting.
depends
if-
on the actual product that you're selling. Like, not every laptop is going to necessarily benefit from it. It's more going to be better for integrated graphics. So any like higher end APUs.
Yeah, I agree with
Without
that.
a discrete graphics card, it'll make a bigger difference for those versus like a standard discrete graphics card. Probably not going to benefit as much from it, unless you're doing something incredibly CPU intensive to begin with. But personally, DDR6, I honestly early on will not make a huge difference even for that at this point.
Well, yeah, I agree with that. Let me turn this out of my face, but
Because like when DDR5 first came out with Intel's 12th gen, there wasn't a huge performance gain to be had on early DDR5 because it was running at such low frequencies. I imagine that they will probably have a similar situation with DDR6 as well.
well, didn't they have multiple crashing and stuff like that?
There was problems with memory training because people were not familiar with DDR5 and the amount of time that it took to train the memory. And then also people were trying to run 4 sticks of RAM, which is a no-no for DDR5, especially early on.
Yeah, I got you there.
Which is more possible now, but
You can do it now.
Well, even though, running 4 sticks, I mean, myself, I tend to agree with everybody that 2 sticks is better than 4 when it comes to AM5, but when it comes to AM4, I can tell you 4 sticks is better than 2.
Yeah, you could easily run 4 sticks of RAM on AM4.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I got AM4 on one side of my PC. I got AM5 on the other side of my PC. I got two PCs here, one with AM4, one with AM5. So I can see the difference between the two, even though my AM4's got 64 gigs of RAM, but my AM5's got 32 gigs of RAM. And speed-wise, AM5 is going to be a lot better performance than the AM4. So
honestly, it was noticeable in the certain 600K to a certain extent, to be honest. When I had DDR4 on that when I first switched to it.
yeah, well, I did notice the big difference between the two in performance-wise. So that's what I wanted to see, was if AM5 was going to be the next go-to, and found out that it is. But I know you guys probably watched that one video today with that one dude screwing up his motherboard again.
Oh, you're talking about Frogboy?
I don't even, I'm going to keep his name out of it. I'm not even going to mention it because we're live.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about, yeah.
I mean, this was another discussion I wanted to have with everybody and say there's a difference between knowing how to put your stuff on your socket, right here, you got your socket. This is a Xeon socket, but it's got fingers underneath it, but you can see that it has its holder around it. And the first mistake he made on that, and I'm going to, I want the viewers to know this, is because I don't want them to make that simple mistake putting that frame around the
contact frame?
He made a mistake on the contact frame. Because
you don't even need a contact frame.
I know that. I know. And they're going to tell you the reason why you use contact frame is for what?
The only real reason to use it is to prevent thermal paste from spreading outside of the socket. That's the only actual benefit.
Yeah.
But in reality, it's not really necessary as long as you're careful. So, yeah.
It's only really necessary on Intel, to be honest.
Yeah, LGA 1700 primarily.
I don't know for the new ones, but they're
1851.
Yeah, but you're looking at the 9800X3D, and you're looking at the AIO pump. You're looking at the plate, the cooling plate, and you're looking at the size of the cooling plate compared to the CPU. Don't you think that that's perfect in size as it is? Instead of changing and going that extreme and changing it, and turn around that 9 out of 10 chances, if you don't get the right plate, what'll happen is it'll wiggle in the socket. Do you really think that the AIO pump cooler is going to keep that socket straight? No, it's not, because it's spring loaded. I mean, it's kind of obvious, when it's spring loaded on your cooler, it's only to compress and to fill in for the thermal paste. That's what your AIO cooler pump on there is supposed to do. It's spring loaded, and it spreads out evenly the paste. It's not really to push down and keep your CPU stable to being in that little plate. Something tells me he kind of cockeyed the plate a little bit, or that it didn't have the right amount of pressure pushing down on the CPU. You know what I mean? Because remember, it was Gamers Nexus or DeBauer or somebody that had this problem before, and it turned around that the plate was not making the right contact on the CPU. To the CPU to the pins on the motherboard. It wasn't putting enough direct pressure like they were claiming. Machine says, I think putting both sticks of RAM in A1 and A2 is a good idea. Yeah, because that motherboard he used has an issue in the BIOS that was causing A2 and B2 not to coordinate correctly, which there's some on Reddit that were saying that they were having problems with the motherboard. So I don't know if you guys heard about that or not. They were having problems with the RAM sticks making the proper connection, not fitting into the socket, but connecting.
You mean to the actual traces of the actual board?
Well, no, that it wasn't connecting to the BIOS correctly, and it was causing instability, causing a C5 error.
Well, if the RAM isn't being detected by the BIOS, that means that the traces from the motherboard from the CPU to the RAM slots themselves are not making contact within those slots in the RAM.
It's either that or he got the wrong QVL listed RAM.
I doubt it's the QVL. Either he has a defective motherboard, or there's something with the CPU itself that's not working with the memory channels. My guess is that it's the motherboard, though.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, there's something with the channels on that motherboard that people said that they had to send it back for a return and get another motherboard because it wasn't working correctly. I guess there was a problem with the connections somewhere.
Yeah.
But when the dude,
CPU is a piece of thing, and he's having repeat.
well, the dude got it for free, and he can't return it, so he's kind of left in a pickle.
He got the motherboard for free? I didn't realize that.
Yeah, he got some viewer sent him the motherboard, and I guess the viewer was with a computer shop and sent him the motherboard. That's the story I heard because I watched it very carefully. Even though that he said in the end that it's Nvidia's fault.
Is has he made it since he got the motherboard? Because updating the BIOS can definitely help potentially isolate some of these issues if it's on an older version.
Yeah, but there's another problem that the last time he tried to update the BIOS on the motherboard, he just went to the newest one and he bricked his motherboard.
You're not going to brick the motherboard by updating the buttons with BIOS flashback because you can always revert to an older version.
I know, but there's something he did that he said he bricked the motherboard, so I have no idea.
Well, I don't trust what Frogboy says too much because he doesn't understand enough to really always give a definitive answer.
I know, but it's basically the point of telling the community that this is happening like this. But the preventative kind of maintenance you could have done to fix the problem would have been more informational than just, sitting there crying about the motherboard and telling, you made a mistake. Especially when you got the CPU and you bought it used on a tray. So you don't know what happened there, and he's already stated that.
I didn't think he bought the 9800 studios. I thought he bought that brand new.
No, because he showed
Oh, the 9950 XT.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, that's the CPU he's using. Okay, I forgot about that.
Yeah, he bought it on a tray from a company, and he didn't know if it was used or he couldn't, he just didn't understand, if it was new or used. I mean, if you got it sent without the box, usually you got it. They clip it into like the plastic. Then you got a tray CPU. So he didn't know if he wanted to take the risk on it and stuff like that. But you get what you get, especially when you order it.
I still don't think it's the CPU.
No, I agree with that. I know it's not the CPU. When I already,
Yeah.
because if it was the CPU, believe it or not, when he plugged the RAM into the B1 and B2 slot and it booted up,
Yeah.
it's not the CPU.
Yeah, it's not, because it's still able to run 2 channels of memory.
I think the major fuss with him about it was that he didn't understand why A2 and B2 wasn't working correctly. But there's you can use
So you could have a
you can
lot.
well he could use B1 and B2 for now until he comes with the BIOS update that could fix the problem.
But like I said, yeah, he should update the box with 5 flashback.
Yeah, I agree with that. It's a problem that can be fixed. But to tell your viewers, oh, I got to go out there and like I got to go out and buy a brand new motherboard because this one's all messed up, and this, no, it's not. It's not the
But he
motherboard.
does provide a lot of misinformation to his viewers because he doesn't really know enough to properly troubleshoot a lot of the time.
Yeah, but when I got some of my viewers coming to me and talking to me about it, I have to come up with the answer. You know what I'm saying? So.
Well, he's not really a PC enthusiast. He's a former console gamer that transitioned to PCs recently.
Right.
And it shows quite obviously because he doesn't really properly understand.
Yeah, especially when you don't know where the number one CPU fan you plug into, or the. I mean, I swear to God, I was having a bad anxiety attack after that video. I swear to God.
I watched the first minute of the video and clicked off.
Yeah.
It wasn't worth it.
It's not so bad that he doesn't know as much. It's just when you try, you need to do your research more. Before you get into doing your videos, you need to really put that research in, especially if you are a console gamer and you want to learn to be a PC enthusiast. You really need to do your homework when it comes to, the pieces for your motherboard and, what you put on the motherboard and everything else. If you don't know what you're doing and you're just throwing it together like throwing a $5,000, system together and just hoping that you throw it up in the air and it works. That's not how it works.
I mean, that's not what you should be doing, especially if you're trying to make a YouTube video. But the thing I wanted to say is that he doesn't really know what his channel is trying to be at this point. Like, he doesn't know whether he's a PC enthusiast or if he's a console fanboy still.
Yeah, I agree with
or what
that.
his full identity is as a channel.
Right, I agree with that.
And he's sticking his foot into too many different segments of his channel, and I don't know, he doesn't put enough work in actually troubleshooting issues. That's what you're saying. So yeah, it makes sense.
Right. He's not totally troubleshooting it all the way out, and he's just given up. And when your first time builders, okay, your first time PC builders, you don't want to give them that impression, because then they come over to me and says, well, how come this dude is doing this? And then I got to go investigate it and find out what's going on, and then I got to come up with an answer for them. It's not hard. I can come up with the simplest answer. I mean, to build a PC, you guys, I built it right in front, well, not fully, but I can build a PC fully in front of you guys, but it just takes me a little longer because I talk too much, basically. So I like to keep it going for a long time and build as I go, kind of thing. But when I put my PC together, it doesn't fail. And I make sure it doesn't fail. My BIOS is up to date, which I know how to do the BIOS. I know what RAM slots to put everything in. I know where the CPU goes and how to put it in carefully. You know, I know how to put all this together with my eyes closed. And if there's something I don't know, I gotta go do my research. You know, see, in the PC world, you know, hardware changes every day. Every second of the day, something changes. So if you're not staying up on the current events, then you know you're going to get lost in the shuffle. But I just wanted to make it clear, you know, to everybody, it's not hard with the motherboard to take and put it together carefully, but not make a simple mistake like, you know, and not being, you know, totally knowing how to take a, you know, that plate and put it around the CPU, which he should have never done that in the first place. Because that plate that he put around the CPU did not look like it's the right one. Yeah, the contact plate. It didn't look like the right one. To me, it looked like a cheesy $6 one.
Yeah, I didn't watch him do that exactly, so I would have to go back and look through that video more carefully because I didn't watch the whole video, honestly.
Yeah. Well, I did, and that's the reason why I had to come up with some answers, you know. Especially when you got people asking me question, why would he do something like that? Well, with contact plate, I would never do that myself. I like to keep everything that come with the PC motherboard on the motherboard. I don't like it. There's a reason why it's built for the motherboard. There's a reason why it's there. But if you go to change it because of aesthetics, nobody's going to see the contact.
You don't see the contact
exactly.
frame, though, when it's built, so it's like you're not using that for aesthetics either. There's only two reasons to typically use a contact frame. Either to get better contact and better thermals, or to prevent thermal paste from dripping off of the CPU after you mount the cooler. So to me, those are the only two reasons. And
well, why would you, now answer this question, why would you be so worried about the thermal paste? Is it metallic thermal paste, or is it non-metallic?
No. It's typically non-metallic unless
you're
using a hybrid paste, which is like half liquid metal, half paste.
Right. Then you would have to worry, but if you're using a non-metallic paste, even if you drip,
you don't even worry about
no, you don't.
thermal paste on the motherboard. Yeah, you don't.
No, because it's. I mean, it's something you can clean up with a Q-tip.
Yeah, yeah, you could use a paper towel for all I care and get that thermal paste off if you needed to.
I mean, it's basically, if you put a little too much on, that's fine. A little too much doesn't hurt.
Yeah, I mean, Gamers Nexus did a video. Even if you apply too much thermal paste, it will just spread out and it will come off essentially if there's too much.
Yeah.
So you really can't put too much in a way, although
you can put too little though.
Definitely, yeah, you can put too little. Yes. You shouldn't put a pea-sized dot on AM5 CPU.
Oh hell no! I put it on like cake, and that's the way it is.
The 5-dot method works, or the line method.
I like the nine dots or lines is fine. Yeah.
Because on Order Lake, not on on Raptor Lake in 12th Gen, the 5-dot method does work.
I think it's the 9-dot method that I've heard of.
Look, I got my pancake spreader. That's all I need right there. Just one. Put one nice even layer, and then once you push it together, it sticks like glue. You want that vacuum right in between the two. Because if you don't have that vacuum in between the two, then you're gonna have an air trap. And when you get an air trap, when the thermal paste heats up, it heats up around that air trap, and it leaves a little blank spot that you really
Yeah.
don't want.
Yeah, and then you'll get worse temperatures as a result.
Exactly. That's why I like mine on like cake.
Okay.
I know
You
it's
have to put a lot of thermal paste to do that, I think, normally, but yes.
no. I put a nice thin layer. It's about the same amount. I mean,
Okay.
in like two or three beads. I mean, but I never have any overheating issue with the thermal paste. It's
Yeah.
always good.
Yeah. The 9700X also runs fairly cool out of the box settings because of that low TDP of 65 watts.
It's not actually 65 watts though.
It'll go above that, of course, because I had a 5700X that was a 65 watt part, but it would pull closer to 80 or 90.
Like, I consider 65 watts. I mean, like my 12400 I used to have, that actually pulls 65 watts.
In actuality,
And once you turn EPO on, it'll pull both of 100, I'm sure.
I pushed it to 200 watts
Okay.
on my 9700X.
Yeah, that's pretty high.
yeah. But I did
Yeah,
see mine was on stock settings. Mine was going up to 126 watts. I didn't care for it, so
Okay.
I kind of brought it back to the 88 watts that I'm used to. So it stays nice and steady at 88 watts. Gives me 67C all day long. I don't have to worry about it. And I didn't mess with the PBO. It's on auto. I just messed with the curve optimizer. It's got no manual settings for like the motherboard or whatever. It has no manual settings. And the only settings I did was a negative offset on the VDD-CR. And I did a negative offset in the curve optimizer. And I set the RAM at Expo running at 6000 MT, CL28. I'm happy with it. So my temperature at idle 47, 46 because of the CPU. The CPU clocks up more than my 5700X. My 5700X is at 3400 and this one's at 3800. So I can understand the 5-degree little bump, you know.
Yeah, it is clocking quite a bit higher because the 5700X typically doesn't go much above 4.8 gigahertz normally.
Yeah, you're right. It doesn't. It sits at about 4.850. If you kind of move the clocks up in the BIOS, usually it sits between about 4.650 normally.
Yeah, so there's a huge clock speed boost with Zen 5. You're getting at least like 5.6, 5.7 pretty easily on a lot of these.
It was easy for me to get to 5.7.
Well,
Yeah.
I left mine at 5.5. I didn't feel the need for 5.7.
Yeah, you probably don't. It's more of a placebo effect when you do that because really you become RAM and fabric limited a lot of the time before you can really hit
Yeah.
that clock speed.
I need to switch out the RAM kit. I want to get rid of the 1.4 volt kit I have in there.
Yeah, okay.
I mean,
I just need to find something.
I mean, it's not expensive to get like 1.35 volt Expo kits now.
True.
You just don't want to get the super low CL ones. Like CL30 is fine. You'll be able to run like 1.35 volt like profiles on that pretty easily.
or you know, like you got the kit here, the Clev kit that you guys mentioned. You know,
Yes.
we get the one that machine picked up for me, the one that had a CL28.
Yeah, that's also good.
That's very
Yeah,
solid.
the
It's a
Clev is
very
really
solid.
good.
It's very solid.
Yeah,
I'm
because
doing
that's
that
the
right now
Hynix
at
makes.
6400.
Yeah, SK Hynix directly manufactures Clev, which is why I recommended that. You know,
Yeah, well, I agree with you guys. This is a very solid RAM compared to the Corsair that I got in my other system. This is pretty solid. So this is something I can recommend to everybody because it is solid and it's running good. Especially for the price. The price wasn't bad.
Yeah, it's a good deal. It's really good pricing. Yeah, I have a Team Group T Create kit that I went. The only reason I didn't get Clev this time is because I didn't want RGB. I wanted non-RGB RAM.
Well, if I don't want RGB, I can turn it off.
Yeah, that is.
So.
But
The thing is, I normally go non-RGB. I did the opposite.
Oh, by the way, guys, since you're live, you might as well go ahead and mention yourself. Prism, you first, and then Vamp, so that way everybody knows who's here.
So Fake Frames on YouTube, that's me, Prism, on Discord. We've been here for a while now. I've been in multiple different tech servers, honestly. And this is just one I found recently.
I'm Vampire. I play some games, and I'm very much interested into tech and how it generally is.
All right, awesome.
And I will stream time to time.
That's awesome, guys. So you guys do agree that, you know, with that motherboard, what was it, the X870E Maximus? I think it was.
Wait, is that the one that Frogboy has? Is that?
Yeah.
Do you have a Strix board?
Well,
I
it
don't
said.
know if it's the Maximus or not. I'm not
I think
sure.
it said Maximus on it.
Oh, okay. I mean,
Yeah, that's what I thought I saw.
I think the video that he did today must not have had that on there because I think it was maybe in the original build video that he did where that was shown.
Well, I seen this. Well, he pulled it out of the box. He pulled it out of the box. It said Maximus, and it was current.
Let me see. See, X870E-E gaming Wi-Fi is the
Strix.
I don't know if it says Maximus though, but let me see.
Is there a Strix Maximus?
I don't know, maybe.
And that's what I don't know either.
E gaming Wi-Fi. Okay, I see the box now in one of his other videos. I don't see Maximus on there, but
I thought it said.
Oh,
Maximus.
that is the normal Strix board.
Oh, that's the.
yeah,
That's.
it's the normal ROG Strix. So yeah.
Okay. I thought it
Right.
said.
But either way, it doesn't matter too much because it's not working properly currently until he either figures out if it's a motherboard problem or if it's a BIOS-related issue with this current motherboard firmware.
Yeah, but I've been noticing all the people putting their comments in there, and they're kind of, you know, some are giving good comments, but most of them are just like, you know, tell them like.
It's kind of hard to take recommendations from comments in a YouTube video. Like, you really need to be talking to people either in a Discord text chat at the very least or in a voice chat.
Oh yeah, I do agree with that. I mean, but if it's a Strix motherboard, it's something that's easily can be fixed, and you know, yeah, it could be a BIOS update that it needs. I mean, I remember when I first got my Strix motherboard, the B550 Strix gaming motherboard. What was it? The network card wasn't working, and I was trying to load Windows 11 into it, and it wouldn't allow me to put Windows 11 into it, so I had to go the back way, you know.
Yeah, there's a command that you can enter into a command line, and then it'll restart, and it'll allow you to boot into Windows 11 without a account and without a network connection.
Yeah, I had to do it that way in order to get it in.
Because I've had to do that, and I've also had to put an external drive in and open up the command command line and then run the driver install by changing directory to the other drive. I've also done it that way as well.
Yeah.
You don't need to do that anymore.
You don't need to, but I've done it before because I didn't realize the other options at the time.
Because there is a website I use, or like virtually makes it where I can just.
Rufus is probably the easiest way. If you use the Rufus tool, it will allow you to create a bootable disk where you bypass the need for the network connection.
Yeah, I got the Rufus tool. So, well, this was before, and I had to do it with the Windows Assistant. It's a little bit different.
Yeah, I know what you're referring to. Yeah,
that was annoying.
Yeah, definitely annoying.
I've done that before, and yes, it is.
So,
very annoying.
Well, I'm just, doing the live stream tonight. I'm just hoping that somebody can mention to the dude, hey, and say like this, there is a workaround. You can get it fixed. You don't have to send your motherboard back. There's many things he can try, to fix the problem.
I am a moderator in his Discord server, so I could try to send him some messages maybe and see if I can get through to him.
Yeah, that would be cool, man. At least give the dude the up and up. I mean, because I kind of he did. What was it? He did the one video where he was putting it all together, and then he did the second video, or I guess he had the problem video, and I was kind of feeling bad for the dude. All in all, trying to put something out there, at least if he can put it in another perspective and be open-minded about it, then he would understand. See, working on PCs, you have to be open-minded. You have to be able to take suggestions from everywhere. And if it's something you haven't tried before and it's going to be safe, then, go that route. I mean, you never know. It might work. Somebody told me one time, and I was looking on my computer when I put this together, and I'm like, okay, I don't have Windows Paint. I was able to get Windows Paint, and I put it back on my computer. Because one dude helped me out and said, you know what, just go grab the box. Got a box in his Google. So I was pointed in the right direction. Grabbed the box, and it works.
Okay.
No viruses, no problems. And I was happy. So it's when you get the community working together with everybody, it makes the community stronger, in the long run. But I'm not in the dude's Discord. I don't know what he does over there. That's, that's his
the thing
channel.
is, he has a Discord server, but he doesn't really use it very much. It's rare where I'll ever see him comment or do anything in Discord, to be fair. So
Right.
He might have one, but he doesn't use it like you do or other people do.
Right. Yeah, I try to keep on it daily, so that way you guys know that I'm there, and if there's any problems or issues and you need help, I'm there,
Yeah.
And it's not just about making the videos. It's about getting, keeping in contact with the community and sticking with the community. And if the community gets into trouble, you help them out. And if you can't help them out, there's somebody in the community that will. So either way you look at it, you'll come up with the answer for the person to give them the best positive possible solution. That's all a part about it being in the community, is working together.
Yeah. Do you want to change the discussion topic soon at this point? Because I feel like we've gone on long enough about this.
Yeah. I do agree with that. Yeah, we'll be changing that up.
I wanted to ask you a question. What are your thoughts on having PPM being a requirement for like multiplayer games like Battlefield
I seen something about that, and you know the TPM that seemed. See, now I have to understand something about TPM. TPM is an original design. I don't care what anybody says; they can't tell me any different. TPM was an original design to keep your BIOS safe, and secure boot was in there to keep the boot up of your operating system safe. Okay, but when you got companies that are going in there messing around with stuff that's going deep into your motherboard, and it's connected to your motherboard in the BIOS, that's not good. That's like taking control.
Good, yeah.
That's taking control of your PC completely.
Now, I do want to mention one thing. Apparently, Activision is using TPM as a way of banning people's systems.
Yeah.
So they're actually, so when people get banned, it's not going to be as easy as spoofing like a hardware like BIOS or motherboard BIOS. This cannot be spoofed easily and would probably require a complete motherboard change.
Yeah, because they'll put out a lockout code into your BIOS that you can't even get into.
Well, it's not that they won't be able to get into their system, but whenever they boot up with that same motherboard, it will be identified with that TPM.
Right,
and
right.
So they won't be able to play the game. Yes.
Yeah, that's kind of what I meant. Yeah.
Yeah,
But-
that's what I figured. But
Yeah, but still, if a game's going to go that far, and I'm going to be honest with you, if Battlefield 6 or Battlefield 7, whatever, goes that far, I'm not going to be playing it. Because if you're going to go that far to piss off your consumers, your gamers, because you can't keep under control what you do on your games, then there's other ways to flag somebody other than messing around in their operating system.
It's very hard to stop cheating from happening in games. In reality, so it does make sense as to why they're doing this for competitive players. But I feel like if you were just playing single player, you shouldn't be required to have TPM on if you're just playing the campaign or you're just playing zombies. Like, I think it should be like alternative option where it's only for multiplayer that you have to do this.
The zombies is worse in that game.
I don't know if it's worse yet. I've seen some gameplay. It didn't look that bad to me. I can't really say on that.
Well, it was just like with Epic Games, and I had First Descendant turn around. They had that anti-cheat, and I was taking and trying to turn on the kernel protection mode for Windows, and it wouldn't allow me because the anti-cheat from Epic Games was interfering with me turning it on. So what I did was I took out First Descendant, I cleansed my machine and took the anti-cheat completely out, and I turned on the kernel protection system, and that's it. Any games, if they're going to put, I'm not in the mood to cheat. I'm a single player game kind of guy. But if they're going to put anti-cheat on the game and they're having that much problem, maybe that's not a game I'd like to play.
Yeah, I mean, you can pick and choose what games you're going to play. See, the thing is, you have to understand from like a competitive standpoint that a lot of these games, they cannot prevent cheaters with just traditional like software anti-cheats at this point.
It's truly difficult.
The only real way to do that would be to use some sort of machine learning based algorithm that can actually analyze every specific player in the game and can track whether or not they're cheating based off of their inputs on the screen. And that probably requires something that is not available at this time.
Or do what Valorant does, because they're actively keep track of it.
Well, they have a rootkit that's installed on your PC, which is not really any better than having TPM enabled.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But, you know, when it comes to that, I don't know why they just, if they're going to download the assets to your game, you know, to your computer, I don't know why they can't put something in the asset, put a code in there to prevent people from cheating and just be done with it.
Yep.
Because what'll happen is if you go to cheat on the game and this is an embedded code you can't take out, you're not going to be able to cheat on the game anymore. They're done. It's over. So there's no more cheating that can be done. But when you're breaking into people's operating system, like going deep into the embedded codes of the operating system, especially messing around with the kernel part of your system, because that's the bread and butter of your system. That's what activates and deactivates things. And then go even further, going into the BIOS section, like TPM or the secure boot, and start dealing with the functionality of your PC, especially when they can do that, and they set up to where you have they log into your TPM just to say login. I'm going to say it like login, but they can go and try to grab onto that TPM, and then let's say they get a bug or virus from somebody hacking the game. What happens? That just injects it right into your TPM, and guess what? You just lost your whole damn computer. And who pays for it? They won't. They won't pay for it. Were they going to pay you for the damages that they do to your PC? No, they're not. So why would I risk my PC just for a $30 or probably a $70 game that I don't get to keep anyway? It's not worth it. It's not worth, a $70 game. You get a malware injected into your TPM and your BIOS, and then you can't pull it out. Guess what? You're throwing out the motherboard. $200. Who's going to pay for that? Nobody. But you. So, no.
Yeah.
You got my answer on that. It's like, no, no, no.
Yeah.
I ain't never heard of a game stooping that low to be that dumb to do that stupid stuff. If they're that paranoid about their game, then they need to put it into a cloud and put it off to away from Steam, and make it to where you got to log into their system to where they can control if you're cheating or not on their system, and you take the risk by going onto their server and their system. That's fine. But to do it here in the wild, you got to be kidding me. I would never play a game that does that in the wild, especially with all the malware running around. Like, you got little monsters running around everywhere. Why would I want to put that into my system? I already take a risk as it is, downloading the assets of the game to my PC. That eats up half the hard drive anyway. So, yeah, I mean,
depending on how good how big your SSD storage is, yes.
Oh, I got plenty of it. Well, no, you're right. I ain't got plenty of SSD space, but I got hard drive space, a lot of it. So, but
but the thing is, a lot of these newer games you can't really play very well.
Yeah, but some of the newer games too. I look at it this way. With the new games, you gotta, when they put a large pay tag on it, to me, I just don't see it. Especially when people wait anyway for the discounts and everything else. I mean, for me, the older games are just as good because remember, I'm from the old school anyway.
Yeah, I know that. I'm just saying, like, in general, if you're playing these games, you should realize that a lot of them are not going to run well on a traditional hard drive.
Oh yeah,
so
I know that.
You should at least have a SATA SSD at the bare minimum for.
Oh, I got 2 of them.
Yeah, which is perfectly fine. Like any 400 plus megabyte SATA SSD is more than enough.
No, mine are more Mine are more over the 4,000 megabytes range.
Not for a SATA SSD.
Oh no, not SATA. Hell no.
Yeah, 400 to 500 is typically around the range of a SATA drive.
Yeah.
Oh, what is it? Yeah, some games solely require a SSD.
Yeah. I mean, you might be able to play them, but they're gonna run like shit if you do.
Yeah. That's the reason why I stick with the M.2 SSDs, because they run pretty fast as it is. So, even though everybody doesn't think that my PCIe 3.0 X41 runs faster than life, but you got to understand, it's just the operating system.
You don't need more than a Gen 3 drive for almost like. There's hardly any games that will take advantage of even a Gen 4 drive at this point. So
I got one Gen 3 and one Gen 4. So, but I do that for video editing. I have the Gen 4 for video editing, and the operating system I got on Gen 3. So they work out great, I think.
Yeah, it's fine. Like, realistically speaking, we've yet to fully take advantage of even Gen 4 at this point, honestly.
Yeah, and with Gen 5 overheating, I don't think we want to even go that route right now.
Yeah, well, you need an active, like, you either need a very good heatsink or like a small, like, active cooling solution.
Or go for a mix drive, pretty much like Gen 4x2, or Gen 5x2.
Well, that's basically just a Gen 4x4 drive.
Yeah.
Yes.
At that point, so it's not really a standard Gen 5.
Yeah.
I wanted a Gen 4, and that is practically a Gen 4 in a way.
Well,
yeah, it's just a Gen 4x4 drive at that.
That's if you're trying to reduce lanes, usage of lanes. You go the PCIe 5.0 X2, so that way it gives you 2 additional lanes. If if you're strapped for lanes on your motherboard, I can see it.
I found it for a pretty good price, and my motherboard take use of Gen 5. There's 2 Gen 5 SSD slots and 1 Gen 4.
But when you populate the 2 5s, doesn't it interfere with the X16 slot?
No.
Oh, so you got a full.
Yeah,
he has a pretty good motherboard.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I'm running a B850 AI top.
He's basically running one of the highest end B850 motherboards you can get. It's a $350 motherboard.
Okay.
Literally the highest.
So basically, it's got 28 lanes. More than 28, it would have to be. Depending on how many M.2 slots you got, depending on how many SATA. You got 3. Yeah, this one here's got 3 as well.
Yeah. Let's see, I'm on a mini ITX board right now because I'm on my 9070 XT and 7800 X3D PC right now.
You know what? I might add a 2 terabyte and put in a bar on the other computer.
Yeah. One thing I will say about Linux is that SSD speeds actually kind of matter on Linux a lot, I noticed, because of how slow Steam is to validate files a lot of the time on Linux.
Well, actually, it wasn't too bad on Linux. I was on Linux Mint. It wasn't too bad.
From my experience on Navara, it's been kind of rough whenever you have to like validate files on Steam. It's not like the booting times, they're not a problem or anything like that, but I've had issues with taking forever to download and validate file integrity.
Oh, I noticed that too. Yeah, it's like a 2 to 3 hour kind of thing.
Yeah, it takes a lot longer than Windows, and I don't know what it is. I think it might be that it pre-compiles shader code for your system.
Yeah, it could.
Because I think on Linux it's more likely to do that than it is on, let's say, Windows.
Yeah, but you got to remember too that the operating system for Linux is bare bone to start with in the first place.
Yes, it is. Yeah, it has a lot less bloat and a lot less applications running by default.
But I'll tell you what, I like it like that. I really
Yeah,
do.
it's good.
It makes it even better because sometimes when you go to Linux and then you get back on Windows, you're like you're almost like lost. Going
Totally feel
from
that.
Linux to Windows, you get back on Windows, you feel like you're lost.
I
Sometimes
don't feel
sometimes I
that
do once in a
way,
while.
but I don't know. I feel more lost going from Windows to Linux than I do the other way around, honestly. But
Well,
yeah, I can see that.
well, because when you're engulfed in Linux, there's something to always do. Not so
Yeah,
much playing games when you're updating your
yeah,
system and
troubleshooting. There's
just,
always something to troubleshoot. Yeah,
I mean, it gives you more of a variety and gives you less. Look, even in Linux, you have a store that you can go and get whatever you want from the store and install it
yeah,
into Linux to make it even make if you want to make Linux into Windows, you can pretty much do that.
yeah. That you
So,
could, I suppose. So.
well, I heard many people doing that and making it look and operate like Windows.
I
So,
don't do that personally, but yeah, I guess people could do that if they wanted to.
yeah. But why go through the trouble, right?
Yeah, there's no point. Like, I'm not
Yeah.
using Linux to make it look like. The only thing that I would ever make look like Windows might be like that equivalent task manager application they have. I've done that
Oh,
before, but that's
yeah.
still not making it look like Windows. It just has a similar application.
Like the Explorer or something. I can't remember the name.
I don't remember the exact name, but yeah, basically it just makes the task manager from like Windows look like
Yeah.
for Linux.
I should test what is it? BL3 on the 5090.
Oh you did get a 5090 recently. Yeah, that is true.
Yeah, how's the 5090 rolling for you? That's the question.
Honestly, pretty good.
I hope so. It's the fastest graphics card except for the Pro 6000, basically. So for gaming,
I ain't going nowhere near the Pro 6000 because that's even if you go on to Micro Center, it's still $9,000.
yeah, it is. I know one person that has one. He sells large amounts of PC hardware on a regular basis, so he typically doesn't hold on to much for very long.
Yeah, some people don't hold on to a lot of things. Some people do. I like holding on to my graphics cards because when it comes to testing time and you compile all that information together, at least you got some
Yeah.
older ones and some newer ones and you got a good mix. You know.
Well, when I say he doesn't hold on to it long, it's because he sells it off very quickly for either the same amount of money that he paid or he sells it for even more. So, like, he's only doing that because he actually buys and sells PC hardware in large quantities, essentially, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah.
This isn't like me or you buying one GPU and
Yeah.
then just reselling it on like eBay or something. That's
Yeah.
not the same.
Yeah. We don't want to get stuck in that crowd. That's a totally different animal. So I stay away from eBay as it is. And
I
machine.
don't have a problem with eBay personally. You just have
Yeah.
to know how to navigate the site in all
Well,
honesty.
I could buy through eBay, and I know how to navigate through it and all that, but I just don't want to deal with the extra headache comes along with it. But machine.
I've bought and sold on eBay regularly
Right.
without too many issues.
Right. Well, but Machine had a question. Have they fixed the PhysX 32-bit yet on the 5000 series?
There is no dedicated hardware for PhysX 32-bit on the 50 series, which means that you're going to have to rely on either for open source code to be able to emulate it through like the GPU render pipeline, or it has to be done on the CPU. So
Well, to be honest, the games I play doesn't really take advantage of it, so it
Yeah,
doesn't really matter.
Yeah, most people that are on 50 series are not playing old enough games that use PhysX 32-bit. I mean, obviously there are people that do, but you know, you can always have a second graphics card in your system for that.
Yeah, like a
That
3050 or something like that.
Yeah,
Realistically, I could technically use my 4070 Ti as a second GPU.
Yeah, but you just get yourself a low profile 4060 or something, and I guess you'd be fine. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I do, me myself, I do play games that requires the PhysX 32-bit. But I'm on the 4070, so I don't have anything to worry about at this point in time.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
But with, you know, other people, you know, they really don't pay attention to the PhysX. Some people don't even know about the PhysX. You know, PhysX was the thing back in the day. It made things look really good to me.
Like, which games currently even use PhysX 64-bit? Like, currently?
The only one that came out recently was Metro Exodus Enhanced Edition. That was like the most recent title that I can recall that used PhysX.
Well, the games are going back at least, what, 20, 25 years on PhysX? Somewhere in there.
Yeah, some of them are quite old, at this point. And typically people that are buying 5090s are typically not playing those games, in my experience.
Some people that play those older games, they're going to be on like a 40 series card.
They're going to be on older hardware than even a 40 series. They're going to be on like GTX 1080s or something. Probably a lot of those people are.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, probably going all the way back to like GT 730 or something like that. I got a GT 730 that does play PhysX, but it's not as good. So
yeah, you'd probably want at least like a 1070 or something, or
1060 you could get away with it.
Yeah,
my laptop is good enough.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm impressed. My 1060 laptop somehow beats a 3050.
Yeah, that's sad.
It depends on what you're doing. It doesn't always.
Yes, but it is weird. It shouldn't be like that.
Well, it's because of VRAM. VRAM can definitely hold the 4 gigabyte variance.
Yeah, but do remember, NVIDIA did not stop putting updates for the drivers and all that for those older cards. I know because my 1650 still gets the same drivers as my 4070.
Yeah, the 10 series is going to be losing support for drivers fairly soon, honestly.
Well, actually, no. NVIDIA put it for 3 more years.
Oh,
yeah, they put it for 3 more years because I guess it was something Microsoft did, and they just extended it for 3 more years. From what I heard, they might have changed their mind since then. Who knows? Things change daily. So, but 10 series cards, they look like they got a little bit more life left in them before, you know, it comes to the big deal.
If you still have a 1080 Ti, you can still play the vast majority of games still.
Oh yeah, you can.
It's about as fast as a 3060, sometimes faster than that.
Or you can rock with the 2080 Ti.
The 2080 Ti is going to last much longer than the 1080 Ti at this point.
Yeah. That would have been.
It has ray tracing. It has DLSS upscaling.
Yeah.
It's just more feature.
To be honest, would you choose a 2080 Ti over a 5060 Ti? Still?
Over the 8 gigabyte variant, yes. I mean, the 16 gigabyte is still faster in basically everything. So it is faster, but it's not an upgrade. So I guess it depends on your price point.
Well, it depends on the price of the 2080 Ti.
Like if you can get a cheap 2080 Ti for like $250, you know, it's a much better value than buying yourself a 5050. That's for sure.
Yeah, because you can still game. You can still game good with the 2080 Ti for
Yeah,
quite.
because it's 3070 performance, but with 11 gigs of VRAM. So like you're still somewhat more future-proof than the 8 gig cards are.
Yeah, you're still close to 12 gigabytes of VRAM anyway. 1 gigabyte. I mean, most of your games now these days, if you set your cards correctly, you can use like 6 or 7 gigabytes of VRAM, and you can rock all
Unless
day
you're
long on
playing
that. So,
super heavy titles like Indiana Jones. I'm playing at 1440p, and I'm using 15.5 gigs of VRAM without path tracing at the moment.
well, actually, with me, when I'm running games, I'm staying in between 6.5 and 7 gigabytes of VRAM. So.
Yeah, because you're lowering the settings appropriately based off of the game. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, me, I have to try to take everything to try to utilize the GPU.
Well, yeah, you have such a fast graphics card that you might as well just max out all the settings and do whatever you want, because you're still gonna have a hard time maxing out the graphics card.
But I just want everybody,
Well,
just to keep open mind about this. Now, with people that don't have as fast graphics cards, you can still get a great gameplay with lower settings. So, just to let it go out there.
Definitely. You don't need to be playing at max settings or super high resolution to enjoy what you're playing.
Still get the same gaming experience on the Ally, depending on the games I play.
Yeah.
As my main computer.
I don't know, them
And
guys.
sometimes it's honestly funner.
Them guys have been talking about the last couple days, Machine and Mr. Dakota, about the Intel Pro B50.
That's just a G21 that's been cut down to a 128-bit bus.
It's a workstation.
VRAM. It's just a clamshelled card with
Yeah.
60 gigs of VRAM. It's really only meant as like a dedicated encoding and like workstation card. It's not really.
Yeah, well,
You should not be buying that for gaming by any means.
It's a small AI use, so.
well, there's.
Or for like a dedicated encoder, it'll also work from.
But there are a couple people that do game on it, that did game on
There are
it, and
people, but there's not really much of a point of doing that. But yeah.
well, I can see if they're building like a small little tiny PC, you know, and and it doesn't require any external power. I mean, it's a good idea that they can use it for that fashion at least. So
if you're doing gaming though, you'd be better off just buying a B580 though, honestly. That thing does
He's talking about ultra small form factor.
But if you're limited on your spot in your PC, then I can see why they would do something like that. So.
It's like those very small cases.
You'd be better off getting a 5060 low profile if that's what you're trying to do. And the price is basically the same. So the only thing you're getting is more VRAM
and better drivers.
Worse performance. So it's like, I don't know. Do you want double the VRAM and worse performance, or? Because to me, it doesn't make sense that performance cost to have 16 gigs.
Well, see, that's the thing with the 50. What is it? 5060 8 gigabytes?
Yeah, it's a 3070 level graphics card, or slightly slower than that, with 8 gigs of VRAM.
Which is not bad for a small form factor, like ultra small form factor PC.
Yeah, but the dude has a very, very small case. I mean, super small. I mean, it's like one slot kind of deal.
Yeah, but you could still put a low profile 5060 in that, is what I'm saying.
Are they single slot or double slot?
I'm pretty sure the B50 is also a double slot.
Dual slot.
Yeah, it's not a single slot.
Yeah.
You have to go for a A310 for a single slot.
Yeah, and it's not even worth considering that. You'd be better off getting like an A2000 or something.
Yeah.
If that's
Yeah, I can see that. But for the price, getting an A2000 to slide in there, and
Yeah.
it's a blower card anyway. Huh. I don't know. It seems a little risky with the.
Or just use a 8700G.
That's true too. Yeah.
Don't even use a GPU. Just use.
You really
some
want-
ADM.
or you could get a Strix Halo Mini PC that would also be very
Yeah.
small form factor, because that has 4060-ish or 4060 Ti-ish performance, but with unlimited VRAM basically.
But that would that's only going to depend on. See, he has the motherboard and everything that he needs to do this, but
Yeah.
I don't think I mean, he's going to be waiting a while for a desktop kind of processor, but I'm sure he's not going to want to change the.
Okay, what motherboard does he have currently that's going to consider that?
I don't know, some ITX motherboard. I'm not sure. I'll have to ask him. I know it's a small motherboard that he's putting all this on, so, and it's a very, very, very small case. I mean, like tight case. So,
My ITX case currently is pretty much like a big Xbox.
Yeah, same here with mine.
wow, that's small.
It's not as small as the 2000 base is not that small.
It can fit a 360 millimeter AIO.
Yeah, I have a Gigabyte Aurora's Elite 9070 XT in the same case that Vampire has. So yeah, you can fit a big graphics card in there.
Yeah, I think the case that he's got is like about based on a 240 mil. The length, probably about a 240 mil.
I'm
Just enough room for the motherboard and the power supply and just a small little something dinky. I don't think he's too much concerned because he's seen what he liked on the B50, and I know what you guys are saying, but he could use it for gaming, he can use it for workstation, he can use it for basically anything he really wants to.
Yeah.
If it's something that he wants to stick in his living room, to play on his TV, just play a couple games, that's cool. So.
To be fair, I would like to have a second GPU for encoding. But even for a GPU like this, it's not really necessary. But if I'm playing a different game and want to try said GPU in said game, that would be worth it.
I don't think that.
But I have to change the power supply first.
I don't think the B50 has AV1 encoding on it, does it?
I think it would.
It should.
It should have it.
Well, that would be good for streaming then.
The problem is that Battlemage has streaming issues currently that I've seen, so I don't know how trusting I would be of that part.
Yeah, but you got to look at it this way too. Right now, Windows is having problems with streaming. And I've already had to correct it a couple times, so it didn't screw up my streaming. And this was Windows. This wasn't NVIDIA. This wasn't anything else.
Specific issues on my A770 that have been much more pronounce while gaming. Now, the A770 is good when not gaming and streaming and just streaming, but
Right.
if you're trying to game and stream at the same time, I don't recommend or Alchemist graphics card for that.
Well, I think with the B series, I think they might have fixed that problem since then.
It didn't. It's worse on Battle Mage.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I hear
It's
people
worse.
talk. I heard people talk about, oh, the drivers are getting better. The drivers are getting better.
They're not really getting that much better. They're doing hand tunes for every specific game. They
Right.
basically have to band-aid fix the driver for each game, essentially. On Battle Mage at this point.
You're saying daily band-aids, pretty much.
Well, it's for the specific game, essentially. Like, they had to do hand tuning for, like, Cyberpunk, because when Alchemist first came out, Cyberpunk had terrible performance on the A770. And
Yeah.
they did fix it much later on, but it took them, like, over a year before they addressed that.
Well, the A series, that was their first line of graphics cards when it comes to discrete.
Yeah. And Edge, while
I'll give it. No, don't get me wrong. I'll
Yeah.
give it to Intel for giving it the first time go and trying to make it work, and them picking up the pieces, which we all knew that with them coming out with their first discrete graphics cards, that there was going to be problems in the beginning. But I'm just waiting to see them catch up and get things ironed out to where they can go back to their older GPUs and fix all those extra little problems. And I think that's what they might do.
Some of them is architectural issue.
Yeah, there are hardware flaws that basically require them to do band fixes, essentially, which is kind of part of the problem right now. Like, when AMD and NVIDIA do drivers, I feel like there's less of a band-aid fix that they have to do.
Yeah, but they've been in the game a lot longer than Intel
Yes,
has.
they have. Yeah, definitely.
So
But my point is that I've been active in the Intel ARC community and the Intel server, and I can tell you the first-hand reports that I've seen of people with issues. I don't think the tech community quite clearly comprehends the amount of problems that ARC GPUs have that the mainstream audience will never see, is what I'm trying to say.
Oh yeah. Oh, I know they're going to have their problems. I knew they had a lot of them in the beginning. I'm not blind. I'm not like everybody else, blinded to the fact. I look at it as if the hardware is good, and like I told many people, if the hardware is good, then I'm going to tell you about it. And if it's bad, I'm going to tell you about it. Either way, you're going to know. I'm going to tell you about it because this is what people want to know. If it's good or bad, or did they fix something? Instead of hearing all the negative reports, what did they fix and stuff like that? This is what people want to know. If it's going to be of value to get them for the long run. That's what people really want to know.
It's like 50 series first release. The driver issues for that was the black screen, because that was also affecting 40 series. Was the same drivers for a certain point.
Well, I'm going to be honest with you. I only had two driver updates that I had the black screen happen, but I shut down and restarted my computer and it started up fine. And there was no problem after that. But from December of 2024 all the way up to today, I haven't had that problem.
Zero.
None.
Because I dealt with it once on my other computer. It was the 4070 Ti Super.
Well, this is a new computer here. This is not my 5700X computer. This is a new one here, and I got the recent driver updates, and I still don't have a problem. It's either that I'm putting it in differently than everybody else. That's why I'm not catching it. probably what people are doing is they're putting the update from NVIDIA in first, and then you get your Windows update, and then you overlap it. And that's where people run into that problem, is because some reason the drivers don't play nice when you take and overlap Microsoft with your factory drivers. I call them factory updated drivers. So what you do is you put Microsoft in first, Windows updates first, and then after it's all stable and you know it's stable, then put your NVIDIA drivers in over the top of Microsoft. Because what Microsoft does is this. They turn around, even though that you might have an up-to-date driver, for some reason they want to stick their version of their drivers in for your PC. For some reason, that they keep injecting their drivers in over NVIDIA or AMD or even Intel. I've had that happen many of times already. So I come up with the conclusion that you put in Microsoft updates first, and then if you got NVIDIA updates, you just overlap it with Microsoft. So that clears your drivers, so you don't have any problems. But if you clean out the drivers, and on Windows Update in the matter of minutes, Microsoft has already got your drivers downloaded for you right then and there. Even though that you don't want their drivers, because you really don't. You don't want Microsoft drivers for your graphics card. You really don't. But sometimes their updates interject their driver codes in for your piece, overwrite your graphic card drivers. I know that. I've had that happen before. So I come up with the conclusion, if I do a Windows update and I got NVIDIA update at the same time, which they have been coming in pretty much at the same time, so I do Windows first and then I do NVIDIA after. It works out good.
I normally do a fresh install of the driver each time.
I learned a long time ago not to do that.
Because I use DDU, get rid of the old one, and install the new one.
Truthfully, I don't use DDU. I won't.
I mean, that's a personal preference, really.
Yep.
I personally do it if I'm switching from NVIDIA to AMD.
Oh yeah, I can agree with that. But if you're switching graphics card, yeah. But if you're using the same graphics card, I don't see the need to clean out the drivers, because I'm using the 4070, so, and it's not going to come out of this system anytime soon. So why do I need to worry about cleaning out the drivers, because they're just going to go right back in again?
Typically, you don't need to, because if you perform a clean installation, under your custom options in the installer, it will mostly wipe out the old driver anyway. It's more just extra precaution that people do that. It's really personal preference. You don't have to do it, but it can be useful at times.
Yeah, but if it's more convenient, even if you're using the same graphics card, same system, everything else, you really don't need to do that. But if you're changing graphics cards, yes, I agree with that. Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. Then you have to clean out the drivers and then start fresh. I understand that. Even though that I didn't do that when I put the 7600, RX 7600, I didn't take the NVIDIA drivers out yet. But the 7600 works in the PC, so has it hit its did it do anything to the performance? No. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I know they're in there, and I know I got to take them out, but I just think for now,
Yeah.
it's running fine. I'm going to leave it alone.
Because, what was it? When I was using my XTX and my 6950, I normally use AMD cleanup tool, then install the new driver. Well, I'm just used to buy it, mainly.
Long time ago, back in the days when you didn't have internet and drivers support was only on a CD, you know, and that's all you had to rely on. It was a little bit different in the day because you have one set of drivers that you have to manipulate for every piece of hardware that you got for your PC. Before the internet, and the only way, you know, you really had any drivers was on the CD from Microsoft. In the cab files. They call them cab files back then.
Yeah.
So now these days it's a little bit different from that, but you know, back in the early 80s, you know, you were kind of stuck with the software that you had and whatever drivers you had there, that was it. That's all you had to work with.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit different than now. I do agree with that. So, but anyway, let me see if anybody's got any questions or answers or anything over here in the chat. What you guys got cooking? Upscaling and lower resolution work great for mid and low end. Yeah, Machine, I do agree with that, my friend. The B50 still works for gaming. Yeah, it does. Depends on the gaming and how far you're willing to go with the gaming. And yeah, his case is low profile, very low profile. But
I mean, try to get like an NVIDIA low profile card for that type of system personally, because ARC has never been great with power efficiency.
yeah,
And drivers are just not there yet, in my opinion.
oh, I do agree, but it all depends on the person that wants to purchase it.
Yeah.
That's their. You can give them a suggestion. It'll be up to them if they want to take it or not. But
Yeah.
that's their choice. All you can do is give the word and say, "Well, this is my thought," and you know, they either take it or they leave it. That's their choice when it comes to building a PC. I'm not gonna. I mean, I'll give the suggestion to them, and if they don't, they either want to take it
Yeah.
or they don't. That's up to
Yeah.
them.
Yeah.
So it's their money, their
The
control.
P50 is not a single slot card, it's a dual slot.
Yeah, yeah, I do realize that. Yeah.
Yeah.
But he would be.
Like, ideally, A4000 would probably be the best graphics card that you could get for that technically. But those, I don't know how good a deal you can get on those even on eBay at this point.
There might be still.
Yeah, but those don't those got a PCI connection, external power?
Yeah, they probably do, honestly.
Yeah. Well, he wants to go with
How
one.
much? Like, if it's 100 watts,
Well, he
or
wants
slightly under.
he wants to get something that's going to put him closer towards between 55 and 70 watts or less. He wants something that's really low power. He could do an AMD R5 240. That's a 1 gigabyte card, and that doesn't require PCI connection. So
3056 gig.
Yeah, that would work.
yeah, I mean, I was just throwing a $5 card out there, you know. You thought low profile 4060 would have been good because it's only 115 watts. No, if it doesn't, let me make this clear so you guys can understand. If it does not have a PCI connection, if it doesn't have external power connection, it can't pull no more than 70.
75 watts is, yeah, the max.
Well, usually they keep them around 70. If you pull 75 watts, you're really straining the motherboard. So I have yet to see, well, no, because my 4070 pulls around 75. But I do agree with you on that. But yeah, it's just, when you get the low profile ones, they kind of stay around the 45 to 55, 60 range. They really don't, unless you really pound on them, for them to really get up to the 70, 75 watt range. I really don't hear too many people complain about that. I don't know. Mr. Prism, does it have a PCI connection on the 4060 or the low profile?
There may be some 4060 and 5060s that don't have them, but it really just depends. I'd have to look it up on tech.
Yeah. I mean,
looking that up. I know the Gigabyte one have 1.8 pin.
I never really looked into it because I was never, not right yet, but I wasn't really going to think about doing a low profile build anyway. But it's a good question for people that do, want to do a low profile build, so they know what they're going to be grabbing at least.
There is a single slot 3050.
The 3050 6 gig is probably going to be the best option for this, because I do think there is one without an 8 pin on that one.
Yeah, I found the max in 3050 for 219. But these have two ports, one display and one HDMI.
Well, if you're going low profile, you probably don't care as much about.
Well, that's why he figured the B50 would be fine because it's got 16 gigabytes of VRAM on it. At least to give him a little bit of a buffer, and plus it just stays around 55, 60 watts anyway, from what other people were testing at.
Yeah.
So it could be a good little budget gaming card, but it's 2 slots, so you have to get used to that. But
there are 2 in 1 slot 3050s. Okay, I can see for a 5060. That is pretty much a 3060 Ti, pretty much.
yeah.
Close enough to it.
But when he games on it, let's say he wants to play Cyberpunk on it. Even though I played on Linux, I played Cyberpunk with this RX 7600, and I was getting like 50 to 60 FPS, which was not bad because I wasn't getting any game stuttering or artifacting or anything. Wasn't bad on Linux. Put it on Windows, forget it.
Do they really have an amp extreme for a 5060? A amp. Solo amp. One HLC.
But, all in all, if he's going to put Windows on it, then, I know Intel kind of doesn't really have the drivers of the century.
It's not just drivers, though. It's also their hardware flaws as well are also a problem.
Yeah, I know. They get every company is going to have their flaws, and it's either we accept it as it is or we just move on. We as doing tech in the community, we know if something's good or something's bad, or something's good to recommend or something's bad to recommend, not to recommend. My bad. But and from what they were saying back a year ago, that they were going to invest in doing low profile, um, non external power cards, was back a year ago. They were supposed to be doing a bunch of them for low profile systems, but obviously they didn't really come out with that many.
You're talking about the NVIDIA for the SFF standard
Yeah,
thing?
yeah.
They already have those cards. Some of them are for like 70s. They're slightly slimmer compared to the other version, like the Zoltec Solid. They have a SFF version, which is not as big for the cooler size.
Right.
I have one of them. It was a Asus Prime, which they're designed it for small form factor cases,
Right, right.
like a 2000D, but the ultra like small cases, those are generally have to be like 4060 and under normally.
But the question is when you got yours, is it worth the price?
I got it at under MSRP when I got
But
it.
still, even being under MSRP, was it still worth the price?
Yes,
There you go.
because the noise of it compared to the card I was using before in there, it was very loud.
Right.
And I got RT performance and saw that how it was, and it works pretty good for it.
That's what matters. If the hardware is good, that's what matters. But a lot of people always have, every time they get a graphics card, they go and tell me,
Yeah.
the coil whine. Oh my God, the coil whine. Make it stop. I don't hear coil whine. Mine's running at 80% right now all day long. And I don't hear, you guys don't even hear it. Do you hear it? You might hear my fan in the background that chatters like a big box, but that's a regular fan. But, for my PC, I don't hear nothing. That's how quiet it is.
To be fair, I don't really consider coil whine as an issue.
Well, I know, but when it makes loud noises and stuff, and you're trying to concentrate on your game, it does make a difference to some people.
Yes,
Yeah, I can.
but the problem what I had was the 6950 in the ITX case. I had to have it at allowed fan speed. The fans have to be super fast just to cool this thing.
Yeah, because it pulls 400 watts, so
Yeah.
I mean it makes sense.
Yeah.
But it was in there for literally temporary.
Yeah, my 9070 XT is borderline of the limit of this case can handle for power draw because it pulls 375 watts under full load.
Cyborg says he can hear my stomach growling. Oh, thanks, man. I appreciate it. I didn't even eat dinner, too, so. Yeah, I know, man.
Yeah,
Oh.
today actually.
But all in all, with
Yeah.
with DDR6, let's just say real quick, with DDR6, we can expect maybe, hopefully, something good in the future.
Yeah. And, probably something after Nova Lake for Intel and AM6 to both have DDR6 at that point.
They're going to give us a new motherboard. They're going to have no other choice. They're not going to be able to stick DDR6 in the
AM5,
DDR.
yeah.
Yeah, they're not going to be able to do that. So, if they're going to give us
one more motherboard platform for AM5, and then after that, I think that's when that 6 will be after the next gen of motherboards in Zen 6.
for 2027.
Yes.
And if
Yeah.
they're gonna if they're going to do that, you know they're going to change the socket and they're going to shove in the newest processor. So
Hopefully the CPU performance by then would be beneficial for some 50 series cars. Because boy, it's easier to. It's originally you can max out a 4090 with a 7800X3D.
Not in everything.
Not in. It's
In
a lot easier.
I'd say you want at least a 9800X3D if you want to max out a 4090 in most games. I think you can,
but with the
a 7800X3D cannot do it from my experience. I ran that combo and yeah, it didn't max it out in most games.
Even at Computex, they showed a 9950X3D get put to its knees with the 5090.
Yeah, definitely.
So hopefully they get something better CPU wise that's going to actually turn the tide and make the 5090 scream. Hopefully.
Well, I'm looking at least a 30% uplift by then from what I am currently.
We'd be lucky if you got a 30% uplift in one gen from a CPU because typically we get about a 10 to 15% uplift normally.
Yeah.
Oh, there's a generation, next gen, which I'll skip.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whatever after that.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
7 and AM6 at that point is what you'd be reading.
Yes.
I really don't see,
And
getting.
I mean Zen 7 X3D.
I really don't see getting an uplift for AM6, even if they come out with it. I don't even think it'll be worth the price on paper to get it. I would just wait for the AM7.
I wouldn't wait for AM7, but I would wait for discounts on AM6 or something until like the motherboards are readily available and the pricing is not atrocious because the pricing will be high.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's going to be, after November, it's going to be high anyway, because once the tariffs take full swing at 100% at the CPU chips.
Well, we don't really know that because there's been so many exemptions with these tariffs because Donald Trump has not held true to what he says and he always goes back on his word. And, basically I can never really know if the tariffs are actually going to go into effect on this or not.
Well, look at it this way. Even if they're under exemption, at least that's given us a break to get the PC parts. So
yeah,
that's the way I look at it. Even if it's given us a break to get the PC parts and not have to pay that extra price, it's still worth something. It's to me, it's not so much being totally okay, I guess I got dropped off, but let me say what I was going to say really quick. Sorry about that. Even though that, when it comes to him putting it on standby all the time, at least we're getting something out of the deal. Even though it might not look like it, and it might look like he's going back on his word, but he's actually saving us money in the midst of what he's doing. He's bluffing them, but at least he's not costing us, an arm and a leg. What's costing us an arm and a leg is these companies thinking they're going to get away with selling us tariff prices for these parts, which the FTC is going to start stepping in and start telling them, look, you can't sell these at tariff prices because the FTC will step in if they're trying to scam.
Yeah.
So they better keep that in mind too, over here. Because people complain to the FTC and they'll look into it, trust me. And these companies don't want to get on the bandwagon of the FTC. And if y'all don't know what the FTC is, it's the Federal Trade Commission.
Yeah.
So, that's just something to keep in mind. That's what's keeping some of those prices down too. You know, some people are saying, well, you know, graphics card prices are coming down. Well, they are.
Yeah, but for temporarily, I don't think they're going to be like this for very long, though. I think the prices are going to go up by like mid-November at this point, honestly.
Well, of course.
Well, I've seen some of them already happening. So.
Yeah, but that's not a long-term thing. Like, realistically, they're not really going back up right now at the moment.
No, they're sitting still. It's all stagnant. When I did the video on Friday for Graphics Card Nightmares, I went through and looked at all the, you know, most of the graphics cards that were out there and looking at it and seeing what their prices were. It's pretty much they're sitting even keel. The only ones that I can see that came down a little bit was the 9060 XT 16 gigabyte. I seen one of them drop $30. So it's like at 350.
I'm not saying the 9070 XTs really dropped to even MSRP. They're still well above MSRP for the 9070 XT, which is kind of a shame.
Yeah, I seen one 9070 XT at 650.
Yeah, that's about as low as you'll get them for. So.
Yeah, not unless they do a rabbit trick and they put them out for $600. Then how many people are going to be buying those for $600?
And probably a decent amount, considering that it's pretty similar to a 5070 Ti in performance. I mean,
and it's $150 cheaper than a 5070 Ti at MSRP price.
Yes, that's why people were excited for the card, but the problem was, you know, the pricing has just not been there. It's basically just been NVIDIA minus $50, which people don't really think is a good value, considering that AMD is still behind in ray tracing compared to the 5070 Ti.
This is true. This is true. And it seems Machine found a...
Also, the 5070 Ti, one thing I will say, it's much more power efficient than the 9070 XT. Like, the stock 9070 XT pulls basically almost 100 watts more than a stock 5070 Ti in reality.
Yeah, but mostly all your AMD graphics cards are power hungry anyway.
They typically are, but like if you look at RDNA 2 versus Ampere drew more power than RDNA 2 did.
Yeah, that's true.
That's true. The one generation where that wasn't really the case, but that's mostly due to Samsung's node was just terrible.
Right.
So that was probably the only reason that even happened, to be fair.
Well, yeah, I can agree with that. But, you know, with the 40 series, NVIDIA didn't do too bad on the 40 series.
Yeah, because the node was so much better that they were able to get the efficiency and they were able to get cache density from the 5 nanometer versus the shitty Samsung 8 nanometer, which was really equal to TSMC's 12 nanometer process in reality.
But they did well, and I've heard people bash the 40 series and said it wasn't that good, and I'm like, you gotta be kidding me.
Because the 4080 Super is almost 5080 level performance most of the time. Like, a lot of times it's only like 5-10% behind a 5080, so like that's bullshit.
Well, see, the problem is they base it up. What they do is they base each graphics card on certain games, but they don't do the big number of putting it on all games.
Like, if you look at Tech Power Up, they don't just test a small number of games. They test like a shit ton.
Oh yeah,
games.
they do a large. Yeah.
Like, they do like 25 games. I don't want to say.
Yeah, that's why I look through their stuff, you know, and they do like a ton of it, and I'm like, wow, this is what they come up with numbers. And yeah, I heard people bashing, oh, Tech Power Up.
The only problem I have with Tech Power Up is they don't really give a whole lot of information about where they test in specific games, so it's kind of hard to really gauge a lot of those performance numbers because you don't know where they were testing to get those results.
Yeah, in the game, you mean?
Like, yeah, in the game, for example, if it doesn't have a benchmark, right, and they're testing in-game, you don't know exactly where they were
testing
They were testing. Yeah.
But at least when they're testing multiple games, you know, at least they're giving you something. And usually if they're giving you something, then that means that they're testing in the best areas that's going to put a large strain.
The more GPU-heavy areas, yeah, because there are games like Hogwarts Legacy where you can be completely CPU limited in your testing, and they're basically meaningless for GPU-bound scenarios.
Right.
Yep.
But I'm sure where they're doing their testing that they're doing it quite more than one time in a certain area. They're probably hitting a lot of areas.
Ooh, Ezra Challenger 9070 XT for $650.
That's a pretty bare bones model, I think, the Challenger.
Yeah.
I seen a 7800 XT for $469. 7800 XT OC model. That's not a bad card if you really think about it.
It is a good card.
Oh yeah, it'll play the games. Some people got to understand too, it's not all about ray tracing. You know, there's some people out there that just love rasterization.
Yeah, and that's where like NVIDIA makes less sense nowadays, is if you only care about raw raster, like no ray tracing, no upscaling, no frame gen.
Yeah.
Then, yeah, I mean.
Yeah, you're going to want to go with AMD. But if...
I'm still anti-frame gen.
But if you want something for like, you know, content creating and stuff like that, you know, heavy ray tracing and all that, then you're going to want to go NVIDIA.
Now, I will say the 9070 XT is a pretty big improvement per compute unit ray tracing wise. Like it's around a 4070 Ti or 3090 at ray tracing this generation. It's not too bad, honestly.
Yeah, it's not too bad. They still does AV1 encoding and all that stuff too.
Yeah.
So it's not really a bad card, but if somebody just wants to, you know, just have the raw rasterization, then that would be a card for them. You know, instead of going the route of waiting for a 5090, or if they can't afford a 5090 to get something as halfway close to it, at least. So, yeah. I mean, I ain't got no problem with the 9070 XT. I know it's going to be good in raster.
Now at the moment. It's a pretty solid card.
Compared to like last gen, the 7900 XTX was pretty good.
The XTX was good in certain aspects, and it was bad in other aspects. Like it was terrible at power efficiency wise if you compared it to the 4080.
Yeah.
Yes.
But it was supposed to be the pinnacle of the 4090, but it never reached up to the 4090.
It was a 4080 super level performance because the architecture didn't scale properly because of the chiplet design.
Yeah, it won't scale that big, but when it comes to the 4090, it just didn't make it. Even though when they did their keynote, that's where, you know, I had hard feelings over this. Is because they turn around, they bashed NVIDIA, not hard, but enough to say that their card's gonna, you know, it's gonna dominate and it's gonna. That's what people were waiting for. They were waiting to see if the 7900 XTX is going to be the dominant for that generation. What happened? 4080 speeds.
you had the right expectations if you believe that. Like, honestly, people were delusional if they thought the XTX was going to be more than 40% faster than the 6950 XT.
Yeah, I know. I had my doubts.
Because I always thought it was going to be around 35-40%, and that's what it ended up happening. And you have these fanboys like Moore's Law is dead who say it's going to be 60-70%
Yeah, I know.
faster, and then you have all these people that think that, and then they end up underwhelmed by performance.
I had my reservations on this that it was going to match up to the 4090. I had my reservations though.
I have another problem. Is that he made another statement saying that the PS6 is not going to be 5090 raw performance, but it'll have 5090 RT performance. And I have to say that that's even a bigger statement to make because AMD is still a ways behind in RT, even compared to the 40 series.
They got another 10 years before they can catch
So
up.
how are we going from a 4070 Ti, Ti Super to a 5090 with a console when the 9070 XT can't even match a 4080? It just doesn't make any sense. RDNA 5's RT performance is not going to be as big of an uplift as RDNA 4 was.
You sure he wasn't?
So just,
you sure he wasn't thinking about taking the 5090 out of a laptop and stick it in for
he was talking about desktop clearly. And
1590 laptop is
it's like a 4080-ish, 5070
is
Yeah.
4070 Ti Super, slightly under.
Yeah, somewhere between a Ti Super and a 5070 Ti.
But I doubt
yeah,
it.
there's no way that's going to happen. Best case scenario, the PS6 is on par with a 9070 non-XT and raster, and maybe a 9070 XT and RT. That's probably where it sits, somewhere on there.
I wouldn't even.
It would be slightly under the 9070 XT.
Yeah, in raw performance, it might be slightly under that, But it's not going to be anywhere near 5090, even at ray tracing. That's delusional. Because realistically, RDNA 5, all the RT performance uplift isn't per RT core, it's from just them adding more of them. You would need like 192 cores probably to get close to like a 4090.
Yeah, probably, yeah. To even catch it, and then when you catch it and they kick in,
And then the 6090 comes out and it's 30 to 40% faster than a 5090. AMD is still going to be slower than a 5090 and maybe even a 4090 at ray tracing.
especially when they come out with the 6000 series, especially the 6000 Pro, that's 15, I'm going to say 15% faster than the 5090. You really think that they're going to catch up? No, they're about 10 years behind. I even know this. It's common sense. That the only thing they're pushing out of there is they're over soaking it in power. They're pushing
the 9070 is an overclocked card out of the box. Like, you can clearly see it because the card hits like 3100 megahertz out of the box on a lot of these models.
You clock higher than the 1590.
So it's just
clock higher than even the 5080. It's like you can overclock the 5080 and 50 series a lot more than you can with RDNA 4.
So basically, the 9070 and the 9070 XT is like the 7900 GRE overclocked, basically.
I mean, it's kind of like that, but it's still different because it's not chiplet. I think of the 9070 as a 7900 GRE that isn't a chiplet, and it clocks a lot higher, essentially,
Right.
I guess.
Monolithic.
Yeah, because they don't have to worry about that latency penalty going into the infinity cache like they did with RDNA 3.
Well, let me ask you this question since I got you guys here. What do you think about Intel and NVIDIA putting together iGPU kind of thing.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea because honestly, I would like to see that in laptops,
Yeah.
handhelds, mini PCs, because an NVIDIA integrated GPU with an Intel CPU could be very good for gaming because it did make sense for NVIDIA to release an ARM-based SoC for Windows because ARM is terrible on Windows.
Yeah, yeah. x86
now with
made more.
Intel-
Yeah, x86
Yeah.
made more sense.
Yeah, so it would be great for them to do that. I mean, if you could get like 3060 level integrated graphics performance, like out of an Intel SoC in a laptop for like, I don't know, like $800-900, I mean, that'd be pretty good.
But let me tell you something. Nvidia is going to take it to the extreme.
Well, they could make their own like Strix Halo equivalent APU at that point, right? Where they could do quad channel memory, and like
Well,
256.
you have to look at it like this. Intel's doing the CPU. Nvidia's doing the GPU. They're combining together to make one hell of a chip.
Yeah, but the main reason they're partnering isn't for consumer grade hardware. It's so that they can make their enterprise, like their GB200, their Hopper
Yeah.
series, so that they can
Yeah.
use an x86 CPU. Let's be clear, because like they don't really care that much about the consumer end for the Intel partnership because they don't really prioritize that.
But even though that they don't, and sooner and later, they will.
Yeah, like for example, that Project Digits, that's using an ARM-based CPU, I imagine. So like eventually they could replace that ARM with an Intel CPU, and then they could eventually run on Windows instead of needing to run some custom Linux, basically.
Yeah, and they can
So, yes.
they can replace the regular RAM with CU DIMM.
I mean,
Intel
good,
Intel
yes.
runs CU DIMM. You know this, and I know this.
Yeah, they do that for Arrow Lake, yes.
But they could do it for this too, and even if they do, you know that's going to push the clocks up even higher. So it would be a hell of a. I'll tell you what. Whatever system they put it in, if they do that, it would be one system you would never ever have to replace for a long time.
Yeah.
You always got to look at the top, where they're going to put this. How high are they going to put this? What kind of cloud are they going to put this on? Especially when it comes to laptop or desktop. They might be making it for their enterprise, machine learning kind of thing. That's fine. But NVIDIA is not going to leave the community out to hang. And they're going to come out with something that's going to blow away AMD. But now there's another thing that's cooking on the back front. Intel and AMD doing a collaboration.
I don't know why they would collab together though, because AMD makes both CPU and GPU, and Intel really primarily does CPU. So the only real collab that they could do
Foundry.
would be for the fabs. Yeah, the foundry. Yeah.
The foundry.
Yeah,
That-
and the only way they're going to use their foundry is if it's proven to be good, because we currently have yet to see them make a successful cutting-edge node, realistically.
Well-
Every single time.
Well, if they didn't have a screw up with Raptor Lake, I'm sure that would have been, a good enough sign. But
Clearly, their fabs have not been able to get good enough yields. They canceled 2 nanometer, and now they're working on 18 angstrom. And who knows if that's even going to pan out? Because every single time they say they're moving to a new node, they end up canceling it.
Yeah, I know that's a bad part. That leaves bad taste in everybody's mouth when it comes to Intel doing that. But I'm sure if they're collaborating with NVIDIA and they're collaborating with AMD, they'll come up with something. They got to. They got no other choice because they're being paid. They got money coming in. You know.
Yeah, they got money from the government and now from Nvidia, and you know.
Now getting it from.
I don't think the government is going to keep funding Intel if they either get rid of their fabs or if they keep screwing up at this point. Like,
well, if they change their tune, and they get their fabs online and they get everything cooking and get product out there like they should, instead of relying on TSMC, which they shouldn't, because they have all that equipment that they could put to really good use instead of letting it collect dust. I mean, they're supposed to be.
Until they get a proven track record where they can produce their own nodes in a very effective way in both yields and time, I mean, I don't think you're going to see a whole lot of companies that are big like Nvidia and AMD go to them.
I think once they get their fabs finished in Ohio, that things are going to change.
That's not going to be done anytime soon. They were supposed to have that place done by this year, and it's been delayed to 2030 at this point.
That's because they ran out of money for it, and they got cut off.
I'm not sure. I mean, yeah, it could be.
They got cut off because it was on the news already that the chip plan that Biden put out there was discontinued for the simple fact because everybody was taking the money and they weren't doing anything. So
yeah,
Trump decided to do something different. He decided to make them work for it. Instead of handing it to them for free, he's making them work for it. That's what you should be doing. You know, if you got the keys to the kingdom, you don't want to give away the kingdom. You know, you want to cut that where it needs to be cut. And if they're going to do it, they're going to put the incentive to do it. And they got enough money now to where they can finish that fab work. It's just they got the CEO they got, I think, is all wrong. You know, if I was there,
a lot worse than Pat Gelsinger was.
Yeah. If I was there, I would change everything around. I would be like, those fabs got to be done, and they got to be done like yesterday. And I would push hardcore. Since the Intel has the advantage because now they lifted the restrictions for building. They lifted the restrictions. They have a perfect time to put it together. A perfect time. And this is the time to do it. But if they keep screwing around and they're just collecting money just to put in everybody's pockets, they're doing an injustice to the community and the people that are handing them money. To me, I would be like, things got to change here. You know, everything's got to change. I mean, I would seriously make some heavy changes. And all this extra land that they got that they don't use, it's gone. Put it up for sale. Take to the top dollar. Put it towards the business. Start investing in the new fab work here in Ohio and get it built fast. I mean fast. I mean within 1 year. That's how fast I would want it built, within a year or less. Other than playing this, well, we don't have the permits because we have to wait on this and that. No, they don't. All that's been lifted. All they got to do is ask for it. And they'll get the permits. They're screwing around too much, and they're manipulating the money around to make it look like to the investors that they're doing something. What have they constructed? What have they put together? What have they built other than the B580?
Alright, I'm gonna leave for now. I'll talk to you guys later. It was a good hangout for a while.
Okay, well, yeah, it's about that time I gotta cut it loose anyway. So, yeah, you guys, great hanging out with you. We'll have to do this again.
Yeah.
Yeah, so. Alright, everybody on the YouTube land. Looks like we done burned off a couple hours and got some good information in there for you. And looks like it's rolling. But anyway, this roadmap shows AMD CPU. Yeah, I saw the roadmap there, MTBK. I did see the roadmap. And it's not a problem, my friend, not a problem. I read it. And it looks like if it happens, it happens. But guys, I did burn a couple hours with y'all tonight. I did have a couple people pop in, and they said, they had their say about what they think, and, it was pretty cool. Mr. Fake Frames and Mr. Vampire. So, yeah. But anyway, guys, I'm going to jump out of here and jump over to Discord. So, but if this is your first time here, and you just got here, and this is your first time here, hit the subscribe button, guys. Hit the like button. Don't forget about the notification bell so you know when I post the next video. And remember, it's for free. You don't have to pay anything to hit the subscribe button. When do you ever hear free? Especially the information, we try to get it out there to the community, and we try to keep everything nice and straight. But anyway, until the next time and the next video, guys, you know who it is, and we'll see you on the next one.